But it really, to me, relates back to the principles of learning and after school and the engaged learning and all those things that we heard about all day today, those examples where you are teaching kids, maybe not overtly, but you're teaching kids and kids are learning those skills of social interaction. That there's a value that society and parents, obviously all of us, I mean, it inherently makes sense, but that there's value in learning, in having kids have some time to get to know how to interact with each other. And it's scary a little bit that people are concerned that they're not going to get that anywhere else. To me as a parent, at least. Let's see here. All right, so should we grade play? This emerged in the focus groups too, sort of the dichotomy between, well, we want after-school programs because it's a place for kids to play and to have fun and be safe, and they'll learn how to work with other kids, and that's what the program should be. And then this other, sort of flip side where you'd say, no, we want programs because they need to, kids aren't getting enough in school, and they need to get more academics, and they need to, have academic enrichment and tutoring, this one-on-one tutoring idea. And that comes up on the Hill too with policymakers. When you talk about after-school space, there's a group of folks that everyone really goes back to what they thought, what either kids experience or what they, when they were a kid, experienced in after school, and that may be sports for some, or it may be chess club, and that's what they immediately identify with when you talk to about after school programs and you come into their office. And it's changed a bit since then. And so it's this idea again of trying to get people to understand what it is that's going on in these programs now. I put this up here, and that's my son, by the way, in the spirit of kids. And he probably wouldn't be happy to know that I gave him an A- for his jungle gym work. But yeah. I put this up because this image came into my mind, and then I had to create it. It came to my mind at a meeting last fall I was at, and I was talking to about various things, policy mostly, and a woman came up to me in a break, and she was an after-school program from Maryland, she's a librarian, it was held in the library, and she said, oh, you're talking about all that research, and this is really good, sort of outcomes. I need to know, I'm writing a grant application, and I don't know if it was a private grant or a federal grant, I didn't get there because I was just stunned. She said, I have to justify all the different things that I do, all the different activities to show how they improve test scores. And we have 20 minutes of unstructured play on the playground, and I need to know if you have research or something or a template language that can show to me how I can make the case that unstructured play leads to improved test scores, because I don't want to give up the unstructured play. It's important for the kids. They need to get out there and run around. And so that this image came to my mind of my son on the playground and being, the teacher, well, no, you're not playing great. But the dichotomy, comes up a lot in Hill meetings between, recreation is still, as of now, one of the allowable uses under the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant. And that discussion as we go into ESEA reauthorization, which may or may not happen this year, comes up in policy circles as, well, we should take recreation out, and no matter what party or political leaning of the staffer you're talking to, it's not a partisan issue, play or not play. It's sort of, some people feel like, we shouldn't be paying federal money to have recreation, and other people, feel like absolutely, kids need to have some time, and they're still learning when they're playing, so that's an okay allowable use. You're not insisting that they have to have recreation, but it should be allowed, and that issue is it's hard for people. I mean, they struggle with it, and that's why, again, the visuals that were presented here and the visuals of your programs and why sharing your story is so important, because you can try to convey to people that there is inherent intrinsic value in what some people perceive as just playing. For instance, in my son's after-school program, they're playing Connect 4. And I go and pick them up sometime, and they're playing different board games, and he was playing Connect 4, and came with another mom at the same time to pick up her kid, and she was like, I can't believe they're playing Connect 4. Why aren't they working on their homework? They should be doing homework help. And my son has a real hard time with losing. And so, I don't know where he gets that from. And so, I was glad to see that he was playing Connect 4, because you know what? You know, he needs to work through what happens when he loses the game of Connect 4. It's not okay to have a hissy fit, you know? And I want him to do that in a social atmosphere outside the home with me to find out what would happen if in that setting, you know, he lost and behaved poorly. That's how kids learn, you know, right? By doing. All right. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I know we're probably late anyway, so I'll move on, I guess, unless I have. Yeah, that's good. All right, so the crumpled paper. I think people support after school really because of that keeping kids safe argument, and that's going to stay around. It's still going to be there, and there's a lot of data on that, and it translates in Hill meetings to sort of the juvenile justice argument, which is interesting because the juvenile justice funding is kind of withered and gone away, but yet that's still what is compelling for most people, particularly on one side of the aisle versus the other. They really see it as sort of the prevention thing, and you know, kids need to have programs during that time frame after school because we're scared that they're, and it's different for different communities, right? So keeping kids safe for some people, we talked about this morning gun violence, you know, that's what some people internalize. For other people, back to the focus groups, you know, it's the story of, you know, well, yes, we have to have programs because I don't want my kindergartner to be home alone and climbing up on the couch to, you know, or on the kitchen counter to get something out of the counter and fall and hurt his head. And so sort of the accident-prone issue of keeping kids safe, people think about it different ways, and therefore it means something to them, and that translates into support. So at the same time, we need to sort of acknowledge that these programs are important for that reason, but really make that transition into the role that they play increasingly as this education reform, you know, conversation continues, that there is a real role here that you all and programs are playing in learning and engaged learning and out of school time. And so that the paper's there because, why is the paper there? Well, because it represents nothing. First I had just a blank page, and my Jen Reinhardt, who I work with, said, you can't just do a black screen because they'll think that like there's something wrong with the screen and the computer, and that might have been the case. So I tried to find, I Googled, you know, images for nothing, and this is what came up. And I'm worried that that support, you know, goes away and becomes nothing if people don't visualize and don't understand the value of the programs that are out there and the learning that's taking place. Even though it may look like kids are playing checkers or on the playground, learning is playing, in important learning, 21st century skills even. Right? So the very first slide had a couple pictures of kids doing STEM programs, robotics, and one was the Scuba School in New York City, which is an awesome program. And so, you know, those are some of the examples, some of the many examples, and now I have a whole bunch more to use in Hill meetings to have people understand what we're talking about. And when we talk about Scuba School, oh yeah, that's cool, yeah, kids should, you know, that's great that kids are learning, you know, low-income inner city kids are learning how to scuba dive, that's excellent. But no, it's not about being cool, right? They're learning about physics and buoyancy, and they're learning about, you know, when they're in the water, pH samples of the Hudson River, and learning about water quality issues. You know, they're learning these things, and it's beyond just the coolness of learning how to scuba dive. Or with robotics, you know, there's the obvious lessons that kids might be learning, but there's also, they're learning creative design, and they're learning all the things we just heard about with project-based learning, right? So, and you know, people understand this and get this when you talk to them about it, and it's really hard for them to visualize. And that's where I, again, implore you all to share your stories, you know, whether it's, you know, through flights on after school at events like that, of getting the word out, or it's op-eds. There's a great op-ed, letter to the editor op-ed in the local paper here for Alameda County, which I think we're in, right? Or you're here, not a California person. From the school superintendent, you know, this week. That was fantastic. And so, you know, those kinds of stories, whether it's a superintendent or not, doesn't matter. Sharing with people what you all are doing. And I know you all have so much on your plate. You know, but this needs to be on the plate too, I guess is what I'm saying, is imploring you all to share your story, whether it's in the grocery store line at checkout, or making the trek to DC and talking to your legislators and your folks on the Hill, telling them what it is that you do and why you do it and what it looks like, and that this learning piece is critical. That's my contact info. Oops, no, it's not. Here it is. And we're at After School for All on Twitter. Follow us. Thank you all.